kind of gifts are given when people get married? Toasters? Sure. In different societies, there can be all kinds of rules about gift giving, who gives what to whom, when. And as we learned in the economics chapter, this can be a very important part of two families coming together in marriage, because they have to develop the trust in the other family by making good on their promises to give the correct gifts in the correct way at the right time. So we can think of marriage as an exchange, right? Remember, we talked about reciprocity and exchanges in our economics chapter. And the idea of marriage being an exchange has to do, of course, with movement of people, right? There's an exchange of people, brides and grooms, and it can be an exchange from the bride's family to the groom's family, meaning the bride leaves her own family and moves in with the groom's family, or vice versa. So that would be an exchange. This person comes to live with you, therefore, what are you going to give us in return? And also all of the gifts leading up to, at the time of, and that follow a marriage. In our society, in Western society, sort of, my background, which is European American, we register at a couple of stores. Probably we send out information about where we've registered, where our bridal or gift registries are, and then our guests will bring us gifts in exchange for enjoying themselves at our wedding, where we will provide food and maybe dancing or other entertainment, and they can enjoy our celebration with us. But we have very few, strict rules in modern times about marriage. One rule that sort of carries over today has to do with who's going to pay for the wedding. And often the bride's family is expected to pay for, if not all of the wedding, the majority of it. And so that's a holdover from earlier period of time, in which that was part of the exchange, that the bride's family would pay for the wedding. Today, we may make deals with our families to say, well, we'll pay for the rehearsal dinner if you pay for the bridal shower, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a little looser in independence-trained societies. The rules aren't so strict. In some places, though, the rules are much stricter, which also means that if the rules are strict and these are more balanced reciprocity exchanges, if somebody doesn't come through with one of these exchanges, the wedding is in jeopardy and may be called off, right? You give them a toaster and what they really wanted was gold, forget it. This picture, which I'm sure you've been looking at as I've been talking, is a really interesting modern picture of a wedding day with yams in baskets in the Buganda region of Uganda. And it looks like also there are gifts like some luggage and some other things in boxes and some rice in the back or other grains in large bags. So the placement of all of these yams or other foodstuffs at the wedding is to show the guests at the wedding to make a display of the gifts that were given from, in this case, from the bride's, the groom's family to the bride's family. In this case, it's bride price or bride wealth. So because in this case, the bride will be leaving her household and moving in with the groom and his family, they have to provide an exchange, and that's called bride price or bride wealth. So these would all be the gifts that the groom's family is giving to the bride's family in exchange for basically her, right? In exchange for her labor, for her service to them. The children will be born in that household as well, and grow up to, to support them. So it's an exchange for, for her to come to live with them. This could also be service, and it can be both items and service. So it could be that the new husband has to go and work for the bride's family for a period of time in order to make this exchange. So that would be called bride service. In other cases where we have the opposite type of exchange going on, for instance, when the bride and groom either go to the bride's family's house or when they set up a new household, then what's provided is called a dowry. And dowry may sound familiar to you in the United States. We've used this term before in the United States, especially, up to recently in sort of the founding of the United States for the last few hundred years, in which people would provide a dowry of items that a young woman had either sewn or quilted, or items that had been put together in a trunk, and then she would bring that trunk with her to her new house upon marriage. So dowry would be in the opposite situation, right? So one thing you can think about is whether it's bride price or dowry is who's going where. So if the bride is going to the husband's house and living with his family, then they need to provide a bride price. If the if the groom is going to the bride's family's house, then the bride's family will need to provide something for the groom's family, or if they set up their own new, what we call neo-local or new residence for just the bride and the groom, then sometimes the family of the bride will provide a dowry as sort of like an inheritance in advance of the passing of the father. So they'll say, here's all this stuff, take care of my daughter and use this to start your life.